Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the special interest group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
To do an examination. Number 5, respect your teachers and peers. If you respect your teachers, they can help you with some numbers that you don't understand, and your friends can also explain to you if you don't know a concept. Stay organized so that you can make your teachers happy. Learning discipline for a better
point. And this is U24 Television. I want to remind you, we are the National Youth Development and Education channel. What has been trending for the previous about 2 weeks has been all about the NRM primaries, different political parties having their delegate conferences. And today I want to be able to dive into a discussion to do with political parties, democracy, the internal processes in these political parties, and actually in the end, how does it affect the democracy of our nation, Uganda. And with me today, I wouldn't have any person better other than to start from my far left, Otim. NRM has been through the primaries. I don't know which position you are standing on. Did you go through or not? Do you have complaints or not? Welcome to the checkpoint. Kindly say hello.
Hello, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Otim Bernard, a freshly elected NRM flag bearer for constituency of Maruzi North, which is found in Apache district.
Wow.
Yes, I won the NRM flag.
Congratulations.
I have no complaint. I have no petition.
You're not crying. I hope you didn't make another person cry, or you actually have petitions against you. We'll be coming to that. Right next to our team is Mirembe. Afro hair, you look very, very nice. Welcome to the checkpoint. Kindly say hello.
Thank you so much. My name is Aaron Mirembe, and I am a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Thank you
I
so
am
much.
very glad and humbled to be here.
Thank you for sitting or standing amongst 3 men. Right next to me is Vianney Ayevare. Welcome to the checkpoint as usual. Kindly.
Thank you, Ivan. Good evening, viewers. My name is John Vianney Ayevare, and I'm a lawyer, a guild president at the Law Development Center, Kampala campus.
Okay. Thank you so much. Otim, I don't know how old you are, and I'm not asking you to say your age. Though for us men, we are very okay. Just telling our age. Actually, being old for us men is an advantage.
That's kind of good for the records in the future.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't amend.
Yes. So, Otim, we know that Uganda's politics doesn't start with political parties. Yes, we had the political parties, we've had the movement system. How relevant are political parties for you? For example, right now, for you who has been contesting, that you have to first go through the primaries and then come into the general elections. Looks like a little bit of too much work, but also for someone who is hearing the word political party for the first time, what are we talking about?
Well, Ivan and the listeners and my fellow panelists, you have brought in quite a number of questions.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you asked, are political parties relevant? Yes, they are relevant. Why? From around 2005, Uganda became a multi-party dispensation. That means we moved from the movement system of governance and got ourselves to the multi-party democratic system. The implication is such that parties are constitutionally mandated to take part in the electoral processes of Uganda. That's enshrined in our constitution, that every other organization that identifies as a political party should have the right to front persons who should be elected to all various offices in the country. And therefore, political parties are very relevant in our democratic dispensation as of today. Mm-hmm. Your other question seemed to suggest that how does internal party processes affect the national democracy? Well,
we'll be coming to that. Basically,
yes.
I wanted to, first of all, from the process that you've been through,
yes,
for you to be able to shed some light
yes.
on the relevance of these political parties.
Yes.
But we'll be coming to actually how it affects the national politics. Vianney, political parties, what are we talking about?
Basically, we have a law, a law that regulates political parties, and good enough, it tells us what a political party is. That law is the Political Parties and Organizations Act. It of course tells us that a political party is a political organization with persons who have a common agenda of sponsoring a certain political ideology. And political organization is also defined in that very act, but basically it means a grouping of persons with free will. They freely come together and they decide to have a common agenda. And when you speak of a political agenda, because sometimes I hear people misuse the word agenda, but when you speak of political agenda, we are saying this is a group, of course a political party, which is fronting its own methodology of solving problems of the day. That's what we call a political agenda. So, a political party is that group which is a political organization with an agenda. A political organization is that grouping of free-willed individuals and persons who have decided to finance, sponsor, and champion a given political agenda. And the political agenda is that kind of ideology which seeks to solve problems and all that. But political parties go hand in hand with democracy, because democracy, we copy it from the Greeks. The oldest democracies is said to be Athens in Greece, because the Greeks, we've read about philosophers and we've heard about them, all that peasant stories and all that. So Greece, many years ago, gave us the idea of democracy, but it was direct, because democracy itself comes from the Greek words, which is demos and then kletos. Demos, which means people. Then kletos, which means power or rule. Mm-hmm. So democracy is the rule of the people, which is why you've had those pleasant American words which we get from the previous American presidents. Rule of the people, by the people, for the people, and what have you. Mm-hmm. So basically that is democracy. Then the Greeks had direct democracy, such that the men would gather and then make decisions. We say we need a well here. So how do we get that well? And then they put it to vote and say, let us do this and do this and do this. It was only men. The challenges by then, of course, was that it was discriminatory and all that. Women were not participating, foreigners and all that. Presently, also democracy has challenges. And when you speak of democracy, it has key attributes. So you cannot speak about democracy unless you speak about the attributes. And these include constitutionalism. Democracies have constitutions. The purpose of constitutions is to limit the powers of government, because governments are very powerful entities. If you let them roam around, unregulated and unlimited, I'm telling you, they can be a menace. So democracies have constitutions to limit powers of government. Secondly, rule of law. Democracies have rule of law, such that there is no one who is above the law. Thirdly, democracies have what we call independence of judiciary. Fourthly, democracies, they have respect for human rights and freedoms. In our constitution, we have a whole chapter 4, which is dedicated to human rights and freedoms. That is an example of democracies. Then it's also based on separation of powers, such that there are different powers entrusted to different institutions and entities. In Uganda, we have the constitution, which clearly tells us the three arms of the government, right from those who are lucky to go to P4, they must have studied legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Those are the key institutions when we speak about separation of powers. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the attributes. There are very many attributes of democracy, but those can guide us in today's discussion as we find out whether political parties influence these aspects of democracy.
Okay, thank you so much, Ayebare. Mirembe,
Yes.
we speak political parties, and certainly for the time you've engaged, let's say if you've engaged in politics or when you've had understanding of what politics is, certainly it's been during the multi-party system. What does it speak to you when someone talks about political parties in Uganda?
Thank you so much. So when we talk about political parties, first of all, Uganda, as my brother to the left mentioned, is a multi-party country. We adopted that system.
Sure.
And it is enshrined in our constitution. And so what happens in a multi-party system? We have a number of political parties. Then these political parties have people who have come together to drive or sell a particular objective. So these are like-minded persons who have an idea or who believe in an idea of how a country should be governed. So they come together, they start a political party, they fund campaigns, and yes. Then when we speak of political parties, and you cannot avoid speaking about democracy like Vianney mentioned. And in democracy, what we are talking about is the rule of the people by the people. And this is also grounded in the preamble of our constitution and very many articles. You should read the constitution, fellow countrymen and women. So, so this democracy, what it tells us is that it is the people to rule and according to the constitution. So what are we saying under democracy is that, as my brother mentioned earlier, that there are several principles in democracy, but what he forgot to mention and what I would love to put to you is the principle of free and fair elections, which also moves hand in hand with transparency. And I believe that is one of the reasons as to why we are here. Free and fair elections. Yes, so when we speak of democracy, that is what clicks to my mind immediately. Yes.
So it's great how the two are trying to connect multi-partyism or political parties to, democracy. We've had many people actually suggest we should go back to the movement system. And that's why I asked you in the beginning the relevance of these political parties. One, political parties have become vehicles, like you said. They're vehicles that are used by politicians or leaders to be able to foster ideologies. Maybe that's what it's meant to do. Is it doing that? It's a question. But to me is, we saw, for example, what was happening in the previous election, where someone was telling you not to ask about a thing. And I will not put that to just one political party, but certain instances that we've seen where someone says, you know what, it doesn't matter where they are coming from as long as they are this. As long as you see this sign, you tick. As long as you see this, you tick. So it doesn't matter who is going to be on the ballot. As long as it's going to be this party, you tick. I don't know if that is still rule of the people by the people. I don't really know. But also, we've seen where political parties do influence what really happens with their members, instead of the members influencing what happens in the parties. And you basically have to follow what has been decided by a few in the parties. And for me, that puts the question of how political parties are contributing to the growth of democracy in Uganda.
Well, thank you so much, our moderator. I would like to begin from where you ended, as to whether political parties are contributing to the democracy of Uganda. I'll connect that very fast to your very first point, where you said some people are saying we should actually go back to the movement system. I would like to observe that in Uganda, we have many political parties. The only unfortunate bit of it is that not all these political parties are national in nature. When you go to, for instance, Lango sub-region, where I come from, we majorly have two political parties. That is the Uganda People's Congress and the National Resistance Movement, to which I subscribe. When you go to a region like Karamoja, you do not have any other party other than the NRM. When you go to Western and Midwestern Uganda, it's purely NRM. When you come to Central Uganda, that is Buganda, it has been DP and now it has been NUP. So the question as to whether we should go back to the NRM system of governance is actually partly relevant, because already in some parts of the country...
It's like you're already back to the movement system.
Yes. For instance, in Karamoja, you don't have any other party. It's a movement system. In that part, they're using individual merits.
Actually, for some constituencies, the moment you go through as a flag bearer for the NRM,
yes,
you're already an MP.
Yeah. And that is why the question of as to whether we are supposed to go back to the movement system becomes halfway answered. Because already some parts, it's surely NRM system. Some parts, there's still competition, like in northern Uganda, particularly Lango. In Buganda, there's competition in other parts. Now, the question is, how relevant are these political parties? Ideally, political parties should be the breeding ground, the nurturing ground for leaders. It should be that incubator through which national leaders should go. Unfortunately, the true meaning of this nurturing has often been changed into something else. Reason being, and partly I can attribute that to our own history, to the extent that when you look at the formation of Ugandan prominent parties, the Kabaka Yeka, the UPC, those alliances, you realize that our parties have always been formed as a matter of convenience. What people usually say, marriage of convenience. Up to date, we have political parties being formed just to suit some agenda of some few people. And such political parties can never be that nurturing ground. And that explains why our political parties have not been stable. They have not lasted and tested that time. They have not passed history. That is why we have a lot of internal conflicts within the party. Because people form parties, one, they want to earn that percentage that government gives through the Electoral Commission. The moment you have one member of parliament from your party, you have a national cake. Two, others form parties because they are annoyed with the previous leaders. For instance, you have the National Unity Platform, which has given birth to Democratic Alliance or something like that, because people are disagreed. And therefore, that makes our political parties not really do what they were meant to do. However, being a person who subscribes to the National Resistance Movement, It's now important that I address that as a person who has gone through this. I just introduced myself as a newly elected flag bearer for the National Resistance Movement for Maruzi County, Maruzi North County in Apache. I can tell you within the NRM, as much as we may still have some loopholes here and there, we have had an opportunity for leaders to be groomed. We have had an opportunity for people to practice democracy within the party. As much as some people say it is it's election, not an election, but a person like myself, I went through an election. And therefore, I can answer yes. The moment I go through the national politics, that is the competition between myself and another person will be fronted by other parties, and I make it to the national stage, obviously, I'll have gone through that incubation.
And
that is much needed.
And you're voted through actually from the village level.
Yes.
I think that's very, very important.
Yes.
Any political party that can be able to have, for example, agents,
Yes.
or if you're to have elections, you can be able to make sure that each village
Yes.
is participating. I
Yes.
think that's you need kudos on that.
Yeah, that's true. So that way, the moment my people again entrust me with the position of being a member of parliament for Maruzi North constituency, NRM party will have been the breeding ground through which I'll contribute to national development, not only for the party, but to the democratic dispensation that Uganda much needs. So in summary, it is really very important that we view political parties as that nurturing ground. And it's my conclusion for this segment that, yes, political parties are really doing enough. However, it's only for the NRM, which is throughout the country, that I see is doing much.
What else would you have said? Thank you so much, Vianney.
I think he makes good submissions.
Yes.
Though I may disagree with some. For example, he summarizes regions of the country and says that here this party is dominant and here is dominant.
That's what works for him.
Yeah, he had it very well until he reached on West.
Uh-huh.
West is predominantly, yes, I agree, predominantly NRM,
Yes.
but not only NRM, as he put it, because we have constituencies in the West where even up today we have members of parliament who are not on NRM ticket.
Sure.
They are on other opposition political parties. So yes, NRM is dominant in the West, but it is being challenged over and then. Then when we speak about the movement system, whether we should go back, first of all, we need to know what a movement system is, because most of us, the Gen Z, we tended to confuse the movement system with the NRM. So NRM is a party, National Resistance Movement. But the movement system was that encompassing political system, so to say.
In short, leaders were voted on merit.
Absolutely,
as
I'm
individuals.
coming there. So in that system, there are no political parties. There is just, it's just a system that once you want to contest, you will just come as a person and start speaking to the whole country, tell us what you want to do, and then we decide whether we vote you or not. The disadvantage of that is that you do not have a backing of a certain group which have a given ideology. Because the reason we form political parties is that you find where you reason with, a given group. For example, when we go to the USA, we know when we speak of the Democrats, we know their stand. For example, when we speak about abortion, we know their stand. When we speak about conservative Republicans, we know their stand. Now, in Uganda, even political parties, they're supposed to be in such a manner that when we speak about NUP, we know what their ideology is. And then I can decide.
What is it?
I'm not a NUP member, so maybe we need to find out.
And for me, that's the question, because you're defining a political party that it's a vehicle where you foster ideology. And
So,
here I am asking you, what is the ideology?
Absolutely.
You can't say.
And we are getting to that point because we need to have clearly defined objectives as political parties, which we pursue. We cannot have an objective, for example, if it is NUP, that we remove the President Museveni, for example. But of course, I know they have their constitution, they have objectives, they have aims and all, and what have you. But that should ring in the minds of the what? Of the Ugandans. That should be the selling point. NRM, it should not be just the ideology of we are on main, we are remaining on the main, or what's your ideology exactly?
What are you doing on the main?
Absolutely, what are you doing there? If it is FDC, what exactly is it that you're standing for? So we must have a clearly defined that. So the advantage of political parties is that they will help you to define that and then have sponsorship, because the Political Parties Organizations Act allows political parties, for example, to raise funds. If you contest as an individual, you register as a candidate the way people contested in 2001 election. On their individual capacity, it may be difficult for you to raise funds. But if it is a political party, it is more trusted. These ones have rules that govern them. They have to give accountability. The law tells us that they must explain how they raise funds and all that and all that. So once we contribute, for example, the National Unity Platform now is raising funds from its supporters. Those funds are not going to be used by the leaders for their picnic and tours, because later on, the Electoral Commission will be knocking on their doors. How much did you collect? How did you spend it? How did you use it? And all that and all that. So that's why a political party becomes...
And I think that's a very point that you bring about. Political parties being funded by the members themselves, because then we can be able to ask for accountability because we've funded our party.
Yes.
But in instances where you find different individuals that are basically actually funding the party, then you have no, courtesy to ask.
No, even if the money, because political parties have different sources of funds. For example, there's funds which come from government. Depending on the number of MPs you have, money is allocated to you. Then they can have donors and funders. This has been controversial sometimes. We say money gotten from donors is for change of government and all that.
It's different from me getting my 100,000 and I put it in to support the party.
The point I wanted to make is that you can demand for accountability from a political party, even if you have not made a contribution.
Which has not happened.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is one area in which we need to improve as people. Because even we do not know how much money goes to which political party from the government directly. So we don't know how do they spend that money. So you are a member of a political party, but for you stop on sloganeering. Hey, oh yeah, without finding out.
When you say, oh yeah, we know what you mean. Mirembe, when we talk about political parties, the funding and all that, my question is, how do we determine whether the party is actually doing whatever it is doing legally? And for me, it's not just about the party being registered, that you have the signatures and all that to submit to the Electoral Commission. My question is, what happens after? We've seen political parties that were registered 10 years ago. You've never heard of it. And from nowhere, because there is an opportunity coming up, you just hear them installing a president. You don't know how they determined who should be the president of that political party. But they are there. How do we determine if the political party is doing whatever it is doing legally? And for us as members, how do we keep making sure that the political party is doing what exactly it's supposed to be doing?
To answer that question, I would pose another question. What kind of party does Uganda run? Is it a multi-party system? Is it a single party system?
It's a multi-party, definitely.
On paper. But when you come to the ground, what system do we run as a country? Because if you want to hold political parties accountable for their actions and whatever goes on, for example, when National Unity Platform held their delegates, was it an election? Yes. So you want to hold them accountable for holding it behind closed doors, for failing to uphold democracy. They did not involve people. They did not give us their criteria. They didn't. And you want to hold them accountable. On what grounds? Because why I posed the first question is, I'm very sure everybody knows this, because
when NRM convenes for their primaries and everything, no one interrupts them. No one interrupts them. But when an opposition political party, even if it is like 40 members inside a very small room, they will be rounded up by police. So I really find them justified for keeping to themselves.
Playing it that way.
Yes, because what other option is left? So this goes back to the citizens. If you need democracy, if you want democracy, vote wisely. Yes.
Moderator, maybe before you...
I knew you were going to come.
Yes.
I knew you were going to come in, but she raises a very, very important question here. That as we're trying to actually hold other political parties accountable and the legality of what exactly they do, the questions will be that you've not allowed, for example, for all your members to be able to vote for the leaders of the party, but certainly they will not be able to mobilize, not even to hold a prayer, certainly, like she said. And the question will be, how do you have a level ground where you can be able to say, we both appreciate having political parties, if it's only one party or two or three that are maybe collaborators who are allowed to be able to hold events here and there to talk to their people and explain, actually, because to be held accountable is to be able to speak to the people, tell them what you're doing and the processes that you're going through.
Well, moderator, and I would like to first pass information to my dear sister here on my right. First of all, it's not true that other political parties are not allowed to operate. We have had the Democratic Party that held its delegates conference,
Like we
Kampala.
said, about 3 of them that are collaborators.
Not really. Not from Kampala, but it held its delegate conference from Mbarara.
But you understand
Miles
the DP
away.
has an MOU with the leading party, NRM.
Okay, let's talk about the National Unity Platform.
Okay.
The National Unity Platform has its leadership academy somewhere in Kamocha.
Yes.
It held its training of recent and it passed out its cadres. Nobody interrupted them. It held its delegates conference recently and nobody interrupted them.
Not interrupted.
However,
I think that's not true.
However,
they have been interrupted a number of times.
No, sir. However, you see, if we are talking about democracy, democracy means you must act within the law. All the political parties are guided, one, by the constitution that provides for their existence. But most importantly, they are guided by the Political Party and Organizations Act, which describes what they should do. But besides those, we have states, the state and its agencies. Besides the law, for instance, the police, the military are mandated to protect the citizens of this country and their property. Now, being in a democratic society, and dispensation for that matter, does not mean everyone is able to do what they feel like. Okay? So when you talk of interruption, we should look at, is the interruption due to a misbehavior from members of the party?
No one is saying they should do just as they like,
yes.
But then it should be cutting across.
Yes.
You're not telling me that for all the people that in the NRM, they do only what is right.
I want to give
We've seen, for example, the violence that happens when you gather. For example, during these primaries, we've seen what has happened. During the campaigns, we have been seeing what happens.
Can I give you an example for NRM? We have had NRM elections called off by security because of misbehavior from certain members of the party. Okay? And that has happened not once, not twice, many times. That therefore tells you that when the agencies of the state act, they do not act selectively, but they act in fulfillment of that constitutional mandate to protect all Ugandans, irrespective of which party you belong to.
It's understandable when that is said by your team. So you can
not really,
continue.
It's as said by all of us. Yes.
Okay, Vianney, I certainly know you have something to say on this, but if you can surely comment on her issue of having a level ground where we can be able to judge or hold accountable these parties.
Yeah, Tim and Aaron do well in terms of highlighting the current challenges and, of course, the aspirations on where we want to be in their submissions. That's what I get from them. Yes, the law that governs political parties is meant to regulate the relationship, between the political parties. But I think the challenge with the law is that it does not envisage a situation where there is a ruling party that is dominant versus the other parties. For example, it doesn't look at the fusion we have between government and the ruling political party. Because that fusion creates a thin line that when you look at police, sometimes you may think that is NRM. But police is part of the state. And also the way they behave, you may think that I was speaking to some border guys. When you move around city, they tell you if you have a signpost, you know, they normally have photos on their motorbikes, these big ones which they put in front and all that. If you have a signpost for an opposition person, when you're nabbed, when you're caught in an offense and you've done something wrong, you're likely to pay heavily. But when you're putting on someone who is in a ruling political party, they may say, you pass, no problem. Even if you have, so it creates a thin line to distinguish what is a state and then what is a political party. And that's why we said with democracy, you must have separation of powers, such that we know NRM is established at plot what? At Chadon Road, yeah? It is there. And we know the state is established in this place. This is the parliament, this is the executive, this is the legislature, and what have you. So, political parties, especially those in opposition, they will suffer the wrath of the strongest political party, which is fused with the machinery of the state. Because every political party wants to obtain power and it wants to stay there. It doesn't want to leave. So the other ones will struggle to get in, and this one will struggle to maintain the grip. And in that struggle, that's why it uses the advantage of the army and all. So it is true that other political parties are suffocating. The space is limited. Why? Because the law does not create the separation of what is a ruling party and then what is the government, which is why even those in the ruling party, like we've seen in the previous election, they fight to ensure that they remain in control. Even if you are in the ruling party and you want to take away the flag, for example, the flag of a minister, you will have to work hard.
You know, when you talk about that separating the ruling party and the state, I'll give you an example of what happens when you go back to the local government, LCs. I can tell you there was a lot of conflict between the NRM chairman, the RDCs, yes, the members of parliament.
The LC5 chairperson,
yes,
the RDC,
exactly, because an NRM chairperson feels they actually have more say than even the elected, member of parliament.
Absolutely, and that's the challenge, including, I think, the local government, by having a chief administrative officer, tries to solve a little bit of the problems, because the chief administrative officer and the district is an accounting officer in charge of everything. So at least in terms of technical work, funding, spending, and accountability, that one we are a little bit spared on local government. And normally the chief administrative officer, the good thing is that he is not elected, which is different from, for example, the topmost office in the country, the chief administrative office of the country. For it is a political office. And that's where, unlike local governments, in fact, that model of a local government can be very helpful when we compare with the national politics. Because had it been that the accounting office on the district is the chairperson, the district chairperson, there would be more chaos. Absolutely. Because his actions would be more political. Allocation of resources, allocation of everything, hiring and recruiting. Of course, we know that on district levels, local governments, there is corruption. The IGG has clearly released reports, and local governments are hotspots. In other words, in law, we would say they are crime scenes of corruption. But because of the aspect that the chief administrative officers are responsible, instead of the district chairpersons and other officers, then it creates some kind of sanity. So when you go to the national level, there is also need to have a clear distinction. For example, when we are heading to elections like these ones we are going to, national elections, because every election we lose people. No one, even these NLM elections, we lost people. I was seeing Honorable Sechiko from Remiaga crying fall, and he lost, I think, a supporter. And that's just in Remiaga. I think there are very many other incidents which happened. Now, in such an election we are going for, there is need to have a clear distinction. Once I become a candidate, how much influence should I remain with in terms of commanding the state apparatus? For example, even if I was a president of this country and you tell me we are contesting and I have a command of violence, I have, of course, when I say violence, I'm meaning weapons of violence. Guns, tear gas, what have you, those are weapons of violence. They are meant to deal with violence and all that. Then, where it helps me, I may be tempted to use it. And we said in a democracy there must be restraint. There must be restraint, there must be limitation of government powers. If they are not limited, they can be unleashed out there, and hell will break loose.
Thank you so much. We've had the issue of the NRM primaries, and I would want us to give them a bit of more focus. And I would want to just refer to the letter by His Excellency the President, and he starts, as usual, by greeting the Bazukulu. And he says, "Greetings and congratulations on the NRM primaries that were carried out on the 17th of July 2025. On that day, one of our sources has now told me that 9.2 million members of our party participated in the primaries supporting the different candidates. This is about 50% of our total members, of our total membership of 18.5 million confirmed on the 16th of May 2025. You can imagine having 18 million and you're only having 9 million participating. So where is the other 50%? Maybe your team will also be able to break down for us why the other 50% didn't see it important to engage in this political party engagement, which is part of the general election definitely coming forth. And he continues to say, for the NRM primaries on working day, maybe that was one of the issue, that maybe it was working day, so some people are not able to, that's a disclaimer. However, I must condemn, His Excellency must condemn in the strongest terms what he stated after hearing in some areas where some unpatriotic actors are alleged to have committed the following mistakes. Number one, altering results. That one, those who participated in the elections maybe can be able to tell us exactly what happened. Number two, tampering with registers. Those are the NRM registers. We had incidences where the chairperson of the NRM Electoral Commission was saying, here you've gotten a register that is not supposed to be used. It's not the official one. I don't know if there is an official and register that is not official. That only your team and team can be able to explain from the NRM. Number three, using violence, including causing some deaths apart from the injuries caused. Number four, and the use of money and materials to bribe voters. I think that is a common we have gotten used. It seems it's the order of the day. And the biggest complaint we have gotten actually to those who are participating in these elections was money. Even the incumbents saying, you know, I have never seen this kind of money in an election. And certainly the Muyindi at Parliament Avenue must be beating his chest. He did well because they must have gotten really big loans to be able to save themselves. I hope my brother or team isn't amongst those ones that, you know, did that. But I wanted to have this in order to understand where I want us to have this discussion, looking at the NRM primaries that we've had. People dying, because of primary election, people fighting, and it's really been ugly. And it was bad for us who are supposed to be giving the public information. We were getting calls actually asking, don't you have images where it is peaceful? Because everything we were showing was almost violent. Is that how it's supposed to be? And if you can't break down for us exactly what happened in your constituency.
Well, first of all, I'll start by blaming you for not going to peaceful areas like Maruzi North, where we never had violence. So you decided to go where there is some element of violence. That's what we're asking
you. We decided to do democracy, and we had the majority.
Democracy dictates that you go to the larger part of the country, which was peaceful. Well, let me first take cognizance of the fact that we had unfortunate incidents during the election. It's very unfortunate that we lost lives. Leadership is about having people speak their voices and speak those voices in large numbers so that they can have their representative. So wherever violence erupted, there are a number of factors, which some of those factors have already been attributed to by the letter of His Excellency the President, addressed to his Bazukuru. Fortunately, I think all of us here formed part of the Bazukuru, except my dear sister here, who is 20 years, but she's not a Muzukuru. Now, His Excellency addresses quite a number of issues, but you realize all those issues are summarized in one: commercialization of politics. This has become the vice that I would wish His Excellency gives us Ugandans as a gift in summary of his leadership. Mm-hmm. You asked whether in Maruzi North there were also monies exchanging hands. It's unfortunate that I've not had the benefit of giving you my background. I come from a very humble background, and many people are actually surprised to hear that I have won a flag for NRM. Many people question, where did this guy get money from? Mm-hmm. I am glad to tell you that I am among the few who have managed to come through this election. Yes, I spent some little money, but I did not splash money anywhere. Mm-hmm. I would like also to let you know that NRM is not all about money. There are places where people still value services. People still value people. People still value that human connection. As much as the money factor of it has always led to what we are now seeing as violence. Let me talk about the electoral violence. Ivan and the panelists here, violence is not a one-sided act. Usually, the players in the race have always caused the violence. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that sometimes it leads to loss of life. But why the violence?
Kindly, I'll cut you short. We'll come to pick it up from why the violence. I would like to pick some feedback from my online audience who are definitely part of this discussion. Kindly get onto our YouTube channel, that's on U24 television, and be able to comment and have your contribution to this conversation shared. You can also send in your comments on our X, that's at U24 TV UG. On YouTube, we have Jalia Nanchinga. Jalia Nanchinga is here to appreciate Honorable Otim Bernard. Yes, someone is here. So certainly they are a fan or a voter of yours. Yes, Oribi is here saluting her president. I think that's Ayebade. Chichoncho Agnes. Mr. President Vianney, how can we ensure that all political parties adhere to the higher standards of democracy? What must be done? That's Chichoncho Agnes here. Kindly keep sharing our live streaming on YouTube to make sure that your colleagues who are not able to watch live on TV can be able to watch us online. And you can also be able to rewind to make sure that you start this conversation from where we started it in order for you not to lose out on a thing. We have Lubobi Huzaifa. The common good agenda that should be the main goal, not family agenda. Honorable Otim knows. I don't get properly the submission. Hopefully, Honorable Tim, you get it. If you do, you'll be able to respond. Again, Chichonjo Agnes says, as lawyers, how can we upgrade the punishments in the law to ensure the political party players do what they're supposed to do? We have Esther. Esther says, thanks, Honorable Tim. You definitely sound a young, brilliant leader, as they are supposed to be. Pardon? Thanks, Honorable Tim. You definitely sound a young, brilliant leader this country needs. Oh, wow. A compliment right there for you. Gilbert Mlangira says, NRM is the movement system, is it? Maybe. We'll get to know about that. Another one says, Council Aaron, what is your understanding of the rights of other citizens whose rights are being abused by the protesters? Maybe they are trying to mean that, which is what he said, that your right also has an obligation. So it's not absolute. Then we have someone saying, the one-party system would save a lot of time and resources. They think we are wasting a lot of money in these political parties' engagements. Then we have James Obalo says, thanks, Honorable Tim and President Vianney, being role models for the youth. More comments coming in. Keep sharing the live stream. Make sure that your friends, colleagues don't miss out on this. Don't be selfish. So sharing, liking the live is very important. Remember, we also have a TikTok page. Kindly get onto TikTok, search for U24 Television. Follow us. Very soon we'll start streaming live on TikTok, live on Facebook, and other platforms. Certainly to make sure that as a national youth channel, we'll reach out to all of you to have this information and transform your country. Honorable Tim, you have 1 minute to be able to conclude on your submission.
Yes, I was actually posing a question to ourselves and to the audience, that why the violence? Mr. Moderator, you realize that Uganda has prominent political parties and other political parties. We have the National Resistance Movement that has just come out of its primary elections, and we shall have another cycle of elections coming 24th of July. We have the National Unity Platform, we have the Democratic Party, we have the Uganda People's Congress, we have the PFF, I think PFF, I don't know if I'm correct.
Yeah, PFF.
Then we have the Forum for Democratic Change, among others. You realize that all these parties have had internal wrangles. Now, these internal wrangles are things that have always bred violence. Because when we look at parties, as Council Vianney rightly said, parties are supposed to operate on ideologies. But most of our parties, their ideologies has always been, let me get onto the eating table. The ideology is now onto the eating table. And now the violence is between a person who is protecting his bread and a person who is trying to grab the
Who
bread.
wants the bread?
And why the violence? That's it. And all this is summarized in commercialization of politics.
Thank you so much.
That will never give the young person
Thank
an
you.
opportunity.
Thank
to
you,
shine in
Honorable
national
Tim.
politics.
I'll give you 30 seconds to be able to now specifically speak to your voters. It can be in English, it can be in their local language.
Oh, wonderful. To the people of Maruzi North, it's an opportunity for me to speak Lango on the national TV. Ami tukobuni apuoyo totwal, pimi ya uno flagu. Kitari neno unukere atikan, atiakelo duonu, pe kapi Maruzi North, pi Uganda lor. Atiakwa yoni yera enti abinoni. Ukero chente ping, kita majo Maruzi North ukwero kere chenta jolony, temi ya flag, meho yeru tera. Maybe winu kwanyu wai kano tiye teterwanyi. Apuoyo.
Apoyo. To my people in Gulu, Atienini, that's all I can say. And I'll be now able to give about just a minute to each one of you, Mirembe and Vianney, to comment on the NRM primaries. What's your take, Mirembe? And your last remark, please.
Okay, thank you so much. So what stood out for me during these primaries was the inflated number of members. What do you mean 18 million
Those
members
are
are registered? I find it weird because and unrealistic, of course.
Why would you find it unrealistic for a party that has presence on every village? And actually, even when we had the local council elections, that's majorly for the youth, they were present on every village. So why would that surprise you?
It surprises me, and actually, I believe it is one of the reasons as to why there was a lot of violence. Yes, because if you have those very many people, and okay, if you claim to have all those numbers of people as your registered members, first of all, who is a member of a political party? Let us first understand that. Who is a member of a political party? A member of a political party is someone who has paid membership
and has a membership card.
So
not all parties charge membership. NRM does not charge.
But you need to have a membership
card.
Not necessarily.
So how do you determine if someone is
as long as your name,
as long as you're in the register?
Yes, as long as your name is on the yellow book, you're a member.
So you put someone in the register without giving them a party card?
Previously they used to give, but currently they haven't given new party cards. Okay. Those who have them. Those who don't have, as long as you are on the NRM register. Yes.
Because we had very many, now like what you've said, I believe we had very many non-members or members who are ineligible to vote influence that particular vote.
That's very clear. And for your information, we had some leaders ferrying students from schools whom you can clearly see that this one actually is not a voter, and they brought them to vote. So certainly you have a point. Because
when it comes to primaries, I would commend NRM. Queuing behind someone's back, it is so transparent and commendable. But then how has it been conducted? If ineligible members are allowed to vote, there is no fairness. That election is rigged outright. And yes, that would be my take on the primaries. And to comment on the violence that happens, in most cases, now like how we are heading into national elections, in most cases, when people engage in violent actions, it is usually a reaction, not an action. They are usually
responding to something.
Responding
with violence.
Not with, because you are media. You're the people who cover these incidents. In most cases, now like what happened in Kawempe, those people were peaceful. They were peaceful, and what did the law keepers do?
Peaceful, what defines peaceful? Who showed that it was peaceful? That we can't be able to define. But because of time, unfortunately, I have to move to Vianney. We'll be picking up the conversation next. Vianney, your last remark, and just a comment. I know you would want to really have 30 minutes on that, but use 1 minute.
The NRM elections, I think we have to agree that firstly, we commend they have large numbers. That's true. But also what is also true is that everyone almost is in NRM register. Even those who are not NRM, they're in NRM register. Everyone votes in NRM elections. But later on, when the general elections come, each one votes where they are, their political ideas. I'm telling you, if you go on ground and you find FDC people voted, whoever voted, everyone voted. They're in the register of NRM. So don't worry about the numbers.
Because that's the only opportunity they have to involve themselves in a primary election.
Secondly,
because your parties are not organizing primary elections.
Secondly, it's also not true that everybody voted.
I mean, everybody in the register voted.
it's only NRM members who voted, not
Okay.
any other
The,
person.
the fact that you said the determinant for one to vote was in the register, which register he says
Has
anyone
everyone.
could register,
Everyone.
You
there is
can
a
just-
possibility.
Unfortunately, that's not true.
Kindly conclude, Vianney.
Then, on the issue of lining up, I think it is why we have even violence. Why? Because I'm sure the moment the line has dispersed, there's no more evidence. But where we have ballots, we can say, let us recount. Now, the line, the moment has dispersed, evidence is gone. Then, lastly, violence, I think, you see, we need to be reminded that it's still a crime to use positions of power to cause violence. Secondly, to bribe. It is still a crime. Yes, we've reached a point where we think that an election cannot go on unless money has been involved.
Thank you so
But it's
much,
still a crime.
Vianney. Unfortunately, that's all we have been able to have for you tonight. We have to get in for U24 cinema happening in a few, but you've been a great audience today to the Checkpoint, and that's all we do. Simplifying the law, but also helping you as Ugandans to be able to understand what is happening, what is your role, what can you do to make Uganda better. It's been me, Ivan Tumkunde. Right with me is Ayebare, Mirembe, and the team. Thank you so much for sparing time to be a part of this evening. From me and the team, Mosh, Tyson, Hafizo in the control room, thank you so much for the great work done. Good night.